Aloha kako and greetings from the Kiwani Foundation, bringing you another segment of Voices of Truth. And we're here on the palace grounds at Mililani Palace in Honolulu with Mililani Trask. Millie, aloha and welcome to Voices of Truth.
Aloha and thanks for having me.
As I mentioned before we started rolling, the whole purpose of this segment, Voices of Truth, is to give people in our viewing audience examples of Hawaiians who are doing things, people who have found their kuleana, and hopefully to motivate those of you who have not yet found your responsibility to society to look around, find out who your mentor could be, find out projects that you could work on, and get busy taking care of your obligation to our community and our society. Mililani, you want to give us a little background on yourself? You're a well-known person, but there may be some people and there may be some things you may want to share with us about who you are, how you got to be what you are, whatever you want to share.
Well, my name is Mililani Trask. I was born here on the island of Oahu, and I was raised in Kaneohe. My father is Bernard Trask, and my grandpa, David Trask, was the sheriff of Honolulu. My mother was Haunani Haya Cooper from Hana, Maui. I went to the Kamehameha schools, graduated in 1969, and then went away to the continent for college, and eventually got my law degree from the University of Santa Clara. Then I returned home, and here in Hawaii I have served as a county prosecutor. I have worked in a nonprofit supporting housing. I have also been part of many Hawaiian organizations. Now I'm a member of the Waikiki Hawaiian Civic Club, also involved in the sovereignty movement, as you well know, some of the work that we're doing together right now at the United Nations. But I continue to try to, as much as possible, be an advocate for Hawaiian human and civil rights in many different areas, not only sovereignty, but also things such as education, and most recently this issue of the genetic modification and patenting of the kalo plant and other of our medicinals. So, that's a short, brief background. I am a practicing attorney, but I consider that most of my practice for law has been in the international arena and also with grassroots issues for Hawaiian peoples.
We're on the grounds today, and we have this opportunity with Mililani because we had a press conference today relating to a shadow report, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But you had mentioned education as one of the things that you've been involved in. I was really happy to see that we had people from Haukumana here with us today, students who attended the press conference. And we had a couple of good questions, and it occurred to me, those kids must have been in the age of, 6th, 7th grade, something like that. Young Hawaiian students who are maybe fortunate than many because of their situation and their closeness to all of the activities that go on here, not only at the Palace but in Honolulu. What do you see as a future for some of these young people? What do you think their possibilities are? What kind of impact do you think we had on their being here today? And how did they impact you?
I thought it was very important, and I was really happy to see the youth come because we had anticipated speaking to the press for the general public. But when the youth showed up, they expressed their concern about the Patriot Act, and they actually shared with us a story of 2 Hawaiians who had been picked up, who were doing sovereignty work on Kauai, and held and interrogated without being charged. And they were asking, what can we expect in terms of responses when we ourselves become advocates? Good question, tough question, but very appropriate. I'm happy to see our youth come to these types of events because Hawaiians are never too young to learn about the realities of our people's situation. And also, Hawaiians are never too young to acquire the tools to be advocates, to be informed about issues that impact us, including historic issues such as the overthrow, which haven't been reconciled. And also, we need to involve our youth in actual advocacy. Hawaiian youth need to be there at a press conference. They need to learn why you call a press conference, how you conduct the press conference. They need to be here when we are talking about the work that we are doing at the United Nations, because they themselves will in fact be part of this movement, as we have seen now with the Center for Hawaiian Studies and other educational programs. High school and college level Hawaiians are coming in to these international arenas, not only at the United Nations, but other conferences. We have Hawaiians working with other indigenous youth, so they need to be there. In terms of where they may go with issues that are political in the future, my sense is that it is an open door. There is an open door for Hawaiian youth, because those Hawaiians who have come before them have gained entry to forums and venues, and the door is now open for them. People, not only ourselves, but others have gone. My sister Haunani Kay has gone, of course, Kekoni Blaisdell. Even prior to that, Kauai Puna Prigine. There has been a long history of Hawaiians who were the first, who opened the door, who set the precedent. So there is now great opportunity for young Hawaiians to come into this type of work, not only here in Hawaii, but nationally and internationally.
Sure. I mentioned to them in talking with them off the side, off the camera, that they really need to look at the resource that we have in some of the students there at UH, because there have been large contingents of them going to the Permanent Forum, United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues for the past couple of years. And these are students who didn't just go to sit in the peanut gallery. They actually wrote, drafted interventions, statements that were delivered on the floor of the United Nations. And these are students who are not many years older than the people who were with us here today.
That's right.
And I said, you may even have cousins, older brothers and sisters who maybe have gone there, who could come back and go to your schools and give you a little rundown on what they've been doing. And if they don't have that kind of connection, I think we can probably talk to Center for Hawaiian Studies and make it a project for them to send some people down. I mean, that's a Hawaiian way of doing things. You don't have to be that much older than the student, really. All you have to have is experience more than, so that you can share.
And Kai, you were telling me that you were happy when you went recently to New Zealand to the World Conference of Indigenous Educators, that you were happy that when you got there were quite a few Hawaiians, and some of them very young.
Quite a few. I think the number of Hawaiians probably constituted about 40% of the total attendance. There were hundreds of Hawaiians and Hawaiian students. So with the small group that we took from Kauai, our own little kupuna group, we had one ohana that participated that had 4 generations, the great-granddaughter, the daughter, the great-grandmother, everybody in between. And it's amazing. I love traveling with a group like that, when everybody seems to know what's expected and where to go and what to do and how to pay attention. But yeah, there's the Hawaiians who went down to New Zealand. It was just amazing. But of course, there's a real aloha relationship. Not only a blood relationship, but a real warm feeling down there. It was fantastic. But at any rate, that's what I was doing. Getting back again to why we were here today, maybe we should talk just a little bit briefly about what the purpose was. I mean, when the children express their concern about how the Patriot Act is creating trouble for Hawaiians here who are trying to exercise their individuality and their human rights, and our response essentially was, yeah, it is problematic. It is problematic, but it's going to, that particular issue is going to be addressed probably this July in Geneva, and it relates to a bigger picture, which is a report that the United States provided to the Committee on Human Rights.
The United States years ago signed the International Treaty for Human Rights that is called the International Treaty Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And when the U.S. signed that treaty, there arose an obligation. Every few years, the United States must make a report to the Human Rights Committee demonstrating that they are protecting and upholding and respecting human rights. once the United States makes that report, then everyone in the world has a right to come forward with their reports, as we have done, filing what are called shadow reports, to point out that there are, in fact, are human rights violations that the U.S. is not admitting to. This time around, there will be many, many hundreds of reports coming in because of things such as the Patriot Act. I think that there was a little bit of fear and intimidation in the questions that we heard from Hawaiian youth. But we have to remind them and ourselves, you know, we are a small group of people who are Hawaiians, but we are not the only ones who are expressing concern and fear about the growing militarism of the United States of America, about the tendency that we see for the United States to violate human rights. There are hundreds of reports that have come in. Church groups are expressing concerns all across the U.S., civil society groups, even unions. Many, many people have come forward expressing the same concerns that these youth and children from Kauai are expressing this morning. So we are not the only ones that see these problems and that may feel intimidated. And when we know that there are others who are also moving with us together to try to protect human rights, I think we can be affirmed in the work we're doing. But also, I think another thing for our youth to realize is that you will encounter situations that are challenging and situations that are fearful, and you should be afraid of them. This is part of what we have to expect in our dealings with the United States. This is what happened when U.S. gunboats, U.S. armed personnel came right here to the palace pointing the guns at the Queen. She felt that intimidation. The fact is that this isn't the first time we've seen this in our history, but it didn't stop our Queen, and it can't stop us. And when you're an advocate for justice, you have to expect that there will be threats and intimidation, but you are strong enough to stand up to it, and we just are not alone in addressing these types of problems.
Yeah, well, that leads to the discussion of really the broad base that we expect our youth to have to enable them to stand up ku'e, as you mentioned, use the term. And I guess that comes from this traditional means of mentoring, from an early age, modeling, not so much asking questions, which of course we encourage today, but by watching the models, by learning what your responsibility is and following in that respect. When it comes down to actual physical and emotional fear, harm, damage, imprisonment, that's a heavy thing to deal with. But I mean, we have a history of Hawaiians and patriots who have had to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Good thing to mention. The Queen herself was arrested, taken to prison. So was Prince Kuhio. I have gone to prison. We have many, many Hawaiians who have been picked up for acts of civil disobedience. In my case, it was standing up in Halava and saying, no, we cannot allow the desecration of our burial areas here in Halava Valley. And this history of peaceful resistance, peaceful civil disobedience, is a well-established history with the Hawaiian peoples. We also know that from the beginning, Hawaiians acted together to collectively resist. Much has been made about the ku'e petitions that our grandparents and great-grandparents all signed, saying, no, we don't want our independent kingdom to be annexed. But, even before that, there were many Hawaiian petitions that came in at the time of the Mahele. Hawaiians sent petition from all over. There's strong petition signed by Hawaiians coming from Lahaina, saying, hey, we don't want this Mahele division of land. Be true to your culture. So we've got a long history of resistance, and we're not the only ones. We've also learned from people like Gandhi, Martin Luther King. These are other people who are international as well as U.S. resistors. So we're not really inventing anything new here. And actually, when you point out the role for our youth, just recently the issue has come up about the genetic modification of our food and of our medicine plants, and then the patenting of the kalo. Now we have people saying, well, we own the kalo. You Hawaiian farmers can't plant it unless you pay us. You can't do it yourself. If you do, we may shut down your lo'i. These are issues that we also now have seen Hawaiian youth come to participate. Just this past week, a big demonstration out in front of Bachman Hall, where Hawaiians of all ages, kupuna right down to the youth, still in high school and younger, who came there to bring the ahu, create an ahu there, and erected a ki'i that had been carved by Walter Ritt and others on Molokai. And there we had a whole day of events while we had our halau kumauna and our halau lokahi youth there. Not only some of them were speaking, but of course dancing and chanting as part of that event. So there's also the cultural performance that our youth is involved in too. And those issues which many of us have now become involved in the genetic modification, actually impact ourselves as well, because we know at the university they were hosting a research project for the human genome, and they wanted Hawaiian blood, hair, and tissue to be given to this questionable research that they were undertaking. That also was a controversial issue, so it's not just doing this type of research on Hawaiian medicinal plants and on our food crops, but also our very flesh and our own genetic identity, so to speak, was involved in that one. Another tough issue that Hawaiians are involved in and are, I think, really pushing the envelope on. We have a diverse group in there from everyone from the Hawaiian farmers, such as Walter Ritty and others, going all the way to the Waikiki Hawaiian Civic Clubs carrying legislation for change. So big issue there.
Yeah, there's no shortage of areas of concern and need for involvement. We've frequently talked about, how to share out the responsibilities. I mean, there's more than any single person certainly, and any group of people can cover all of the things that have to be done. Although we're working at it, I think we're making some progress in developing teams. We had some discussions today. Ikaika Hutchie was here and made a few suggestions that were terrific about how to better organize and perhaps manage what we do, also involving a mentoring program for youth. So there's no shortage of things to do. What's the hottest topic for you right at this moment, the single hottest topic for you right at this moment?
Actually, I can't really narrow it down to one because, as you know, we are all critically concerned with monitoring the U.S. compliance to the human rights for Hawaiians under the International Covenant, and that is certainly a high priority for me. The other two priorities for me at this time, I'm very concerned with the theft of Hawaiian traditional knowledge, and now the patenting, the genetic modification of our life forms and the patenting of our plants. I think that we have to look at this seriously because our food, our nutrition, our health depends on our native diet and our access to our medicines. And frankly, I consider this patenting issue to just be an outrage, but it is equally as outrageous that for over 100 years our human rights continue to be violated and our lands withheld from our people. It's real hard, given where we are, to just say that there's one most important issue.
Yeah. Well, actually, at the international level, you were involved with health on a broad perspective of women and children.
Yes, and also with the as the health focal point for the permanent forum, I had to look at all the issues of health, including things such as the spread of AIDS globally, the tragedy unfolding in Africa now, of course, incredibly sad statistics on malaria we see coming out of the Pacific Basin, and the inability of the world community to address pandemics such as SARS, and now we await the avian flu. These are things that do impact Hawaii and the Pacific Basin. So there are many health issues that we were looking at. But of course, the underlying problem that people do not have immunity, that they are weak because they don't have food. They don't have shelter. The basic components to be healthy are missing. And this is why we must, protect our food source from those who want to try to patent it and say it's their private property.
Well, when you're home, and when you're actually home, you live in Hilo. Is that true?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I know that just as I do, when I get back home, it's as though you have very little time, but you just pick up and run at a heavy pace even when you're at home. What have you been doing at home that's outside of this arena of the international issues and so forth?
Well, at home, I've actually started some interesting projects this past year, Kaiopua. After many years, to celebrate my 55th birthday, I decided I was going to try the Auntie Margaret Machado saltwater cleanse. And I took a week off and went out there to Kona. I didn't eat food for several days. I drank that salt water from the ocean from Kona in the mornings, took the juices, and I really cleaned out. In the evening, we were doing steaming. I came out of there feeling really healthy and really renewed. And I decided that I needed to begin to encourage others in my family and in my work and community to really start looking at going back to some of these traditional practices. The saltwater cleanse is a tough thing, but you will not regret it. I'm encouraging Hawaiians to do that. I also have decided that I need to get back into a more healthy routine. And I have got myself back on biking exercise every morning, 4 miles. That I'm very happy about. We've seen some excellent results right now on our island. Kumu Keala Chang in the last year and a half has dropped nearly 100 pounds. People were worried about his health. He's a young kumu hula. Now, not only is he healthy, but he's bringing in other kumu and other hula dancers because we have been losing our cultural practitioners to this. Of course, I'm going to now be working with Halau Okekuhi. They have called together many of the old hula dancers. I am not one, but my younger sister, Keonauna, is. And for the first time in the history of Halau Okekuhi, they will be planning for an uniki of students who will come out as kumuhula. And the whole of the Hilo community is now supporting this. So I've got a younger sister who will be going through an uniki. We're going to be doing a family effort to help her on that. Also, we have been trying to work to make a better impact on the Kamehameha schools. My young niece, little Mililani, will be graduating from the Kamehameha schools this year from the Kea'au campus. And we've got our hands full. We've been working the last few weeks getting ready because we have our ho'olaulea this weekend. So I'll be there to assist. I've also done a little bit of traveling this past year with some of the Kamehameha high school women's teams because little Mililani was a softball team player. And of course, you know, our women's team from Kamehameha took the state championship. Our island championship. Yeah. It came to the state championship here on Oahu. We won the Big Island, but we didn't win the state championship. But I've been trying to put in a little bit more time with my community on things that are not political. Yeah. We've got to keep it going at the school level and also for things like health with the general community. So I try to do my part there.
Well, and I think it's critical. You talked about, cleaning up your act, essentially, health-wise. And, I think a lot of us who have, reaching a certain age have started looking at the same thing. And we've got so many great health programs going on that hopefully our youth can model throughout their lives so that they don't wind up at a certain age trying to recover from some situations that sometimes are irreversible.
This is so true, Kai. When we look at the health statistics, highest mortality rate for breast cancer, diabetes, hypertension, heart problems, smoking-related problems, these are behaviors that we have to begin fighting. Just with the same commitment that we fight for human rights, we have to fight for our own health. And really, it has to begin with us saying, I've got some bad habits, I have to address it. Recently, I had to really take a look at what was happening because at 55, I'm dealing with menopause. My mother had twice breast cancer surgery. We almost lost her. We know that we lose a lot of Hawaiian women to breast cancer. Well, I didn't want to be involved in that hormone replacement therapy, so I worked with some other Hawaiian women, as well as some non-Hawaiians, and we decided we were going to look for a remedy that could help us. And we found the homeopathic remedies. They're cheap. We are not taking the hormones, and I can tell you I was on the hormone replacement therapy for several months. It did not help me, and it causes things such as stroke, other serious problems. I got off it. I'm now doing a homeopathic remedy, and it has really assisted me. So we're now telling other Hawaiian women, don't risk breast cancer. You don't have to risk this by going on hormone replacement therapy. Do what we've done. Get on homeopathic remedies. So that's another thing we can do, but it begins at home. It begins with us saying we're going to change our eating habits.
Well, in order for us to move forward, to take care of our kuleana, to work at the things that need to be done to improve Hawaii's future, we've got to have the stamina and the health to be able to do it. The paces that you and many of us keep, globe-trotting one event to another, long hours, hard work, stressful conditions for extended periods of time. We've got to take care of ourselves, and we owe it to our communities to take care of ourselves, and we have to help them to learn how to take care of themselves also.
And we're role models for our youth, for our keiki, for our grandchildren, our mo'opunas. So, we've got to do it. We've got to really show that this can be done by walking the walk and talking the talk, not just politically, but in what we eat, how we exercise, and even quitting smoking. It has killed me to quit smoking day by day.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, I'm 4 months, I haven't smoked. And it's a day-by-day commitment. And if I can do it, smoking since I was 13, I know other Hawaiians can do it too.
Yeah, I smoked myself, and when I decided to quit and I put it down, and I did, I was not a real pleasant person to be around for about a year. It's amazing, the addiction. But at any rate, we're winding our segment to a close. Is there any closing thought that you would like to leave with our audience before we sign off this segment?
Yes, there is. There are many difficult problems that the Hawaiian community is facing, and things have never been easy for us, and we have a long way to go and a difficult road to hoe. But we also have many blessings. We have each other. We have a resilient group of youth coming forward, and we have a long history of demonstrating our ability and commitment. And the last thing I want to leave with people is remember who and what we are. We can do anything. We have the ability to accomplish our goals, so let's set our mind to do it, and oni pa'akako.
Mahalo nui. Thank you, Mililani, and thank you folks who are out there in the viewing audience. Once again, I'm Kaiopua 5 for the Kiwani Voices of Truth, one-on-one with Hawaii's Future, brought to you by the Kiwani Foundation. See you next time.
Aloha.